sent you the foundation's highlights from 2023. This is something I love to talk about. So when I was diagnosed, a big part of the reason why my doctor put me on the meds that he put me on was because he was like, well, there's really only one other medicine, that was Remicade. And he goes, I don't want to put you on that unless we really have to, because then if that doesn't work, I don't know what we'll do. Well, now there are tons of options. And one of the things in the highlights that I think is super exciting, my board probably laughs at me because I talk about this one all the time because I think it's so cool. But they're working on this smart pill, right? So they're working on this smart pill. And if you're familiar, with like a smart bomb, right, or whatever, it's supposed to deliver something exactly where it's needed, right? Well, a big problem for Crohn's and colitis patients is that your inflammation can be in varying spots along that GI tract or inside your colon. And no matter what, depending on how you get your medicine, that's a ways for the medicine to have to travel. So depending on where your inflammation is and where it's the most severe, you might be getting a higher dosage or medicine more often, and you might have some additional side effects from the medicine trying to treat your inflammation. Well, the smart pill is designed so that it will deliver the medicine exactly where the inflammation is. And this was just something that was like an idea, right, a couple years ago. Well, now they're in the final testing of this, and they've got this pill. It's probably a little bit larger of a pill, kind of like maybe a big multivitamin kind of thing. And it's got light sensing technology that can tell where it's at in your GI tract and release medicine to where it needs to be. So this has been through some FDA testing now, and it is now getting to a point where hopefully it's going to be released to patients soon. And it can make a huge difference. And this isn't just an advancement for Crohn's and colitis. I mean, this could be for a lot of different things. So the research
Yeah,
that went into this technology is amazing.
Well, in my
that's
mind, what I'm
incredible.
envisioning is, first of all, if you have inflammation, that pill ain't going anywhere. So it'd have to release medication just to get through the body. But I've never heard of such a thing. And
Yeah.
wow, thank God. Like,
Yeah. And Jordan,
Wow.
this next one. So do you
Yeah.
have to get a lot of blood work done if you're worried about having a flare up? Do they always test your blood and you get lots of
Yeah.
pokes?
Oh, I'm a pincushion. I am
Yeah.
a
So they're working on this monitoring device. So it'd be kind of like a Fitbit or like an Apple Watch, it'll measure
it's
the
happened.
biomarkers in your sweat to be able to tell if you're having a flare or if it looks like a flare is approaching. So it's going to be a really non-invasive way for patients to know if they're having a flare. So that's going to
Wow.
be amazing, especially when you think about what that could mean for pediatric patients who might be
Yeah.
terrified of getting all the pokes that they have to get.
That was one of the first things we ran into because Jordan was scared of needles in the beginning. And it was devastating to stand there, feel so helpless for my daughter. And I think the first medication they went to put her on was Humira, and I had to
Mhm.
watch her get 5 injections into her stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said, like, she was skin and bones, there was no place for these needles to go. And yeah, so to know little children are having to go through that and we could save them that trauma on
Yeah.
top of all the other it's just, oh my god, there's
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I did not know of any of this
Yeah.
advancement.
So the foundation was started in 1967, and this is an incredible stat to me. Since 1967, when it was started, the foundation has put more than $500 million towards research. And since its inception, the foundation has been a part of every major advancement in the treatment of Crohn's and colitis. So the foundation is really helping to lead some amazing work in the research, the education, and the advocacy for patients and families, and for the docs. I mean, the work that the foundation tries to fund and the research that we really invest ourselves in is also in support of the medical community and helping our doctors, have better treatment options, and better ways to diagnose, to help patients, monitor their disease and live with their disease.
Well, you know what? That makes me wanna walk. That is incredible. That
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I'm just looking at this second part of this form here where it says you launched an IBD medication guide, gut-friendly recipes, breaking down barriers. You have a camp for children.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me just pause here and say that when Jordan first got diagnosed, I was looking for a way to fix it. And so when I found the foundation, I was like, Jordan, let's do this. And she was like, no, I don't want to. And what we had run into is, especially on social media, there's these communities, and you try to join a community and figure out anything. Where do I belong? How do you cope? Where are the people that I can relate to? And these communities were so negative and
Mhm.
so scary that in our mind, I think we thought, if I go to this foundation, I'm just going to be surrounded by sick people who are going to remind me that I'm sick, and it's going to be depressing, and I
Well,
don't want to deal with that.
and I struggled a lot with shame and stigma because yeah, like this is not a disease I wanted to run and tell my high school friends about. Like, I have trouble in the bathroom. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I you're right, I did join Facebook support groups, and understandably people need an outlet to vent and be negative and share those negative thoughts and feelings, and entirely understandable, but being exposed to that as like my initial um that was my first introduction to support groups for
Yeah.
this disease, and so I was immediately turned off to the idea, and so I stayed um pretty quiet about my disease for a long time, and I didn't seek any resources, and so um, that's why I've been so excited to have you on today, is because I'm learning so much, and I'm getting so excited to be a part of this foundation. Like, I want to do. How can I help? Like,
One
Yep.
of the cool things
I'm
Jordan
here.
did,
Tell me what to do.
right? So her first colonoscopy was like scary. We didn't know anything. And at some point, Jordan made this fabulous pamphlet. I think it was for a friend or something, but that it was like kid friendly. Like, this is what's going to happen to you, because she's an artist. She's a graphic
Yeah,
designer. If you guys need a graphic designer, I know one. Um, but it was so kid friendly that made it like less scary. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you're going to
yeah.
do for a colonoscopy. I was like, Jordan, this is amazing. We got to get this out here. She was like, no,
Nope.
absolutely not.
'Cause
But if
then
we
people would
had
know.
friends,
Like,
right?
yeah.
Right, and it's you know what? It almost seemed easier. There was somebody in school who got diagnosed with cancer, and everybody rallied around this person. "You have cancer," like, and, but Jordan was like, "Oh my gosh, if I tell people I have, like, this bathroom disease, like,
It's a
nobody's
little
gonna understand that."
yeah. And that was hard because,
She
I
saw this person getting
also
all the support, and
and I didn't know how to ask for that support,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I saw that people were willing to give it, but I didn't know how to ask for it, and that is where I really struggled.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and becoming involved in the walks or whatever is you start to meet people that are more like you than what you realize. And I completely get what you're saying about sometimes some of those online forums. You hear a lot of the negativity because it is an outlet for frustration, right? But there's also some good that's in a lot of those too, and some connections
Mhm.
that can be made that help you realize, hey, there's other people that feel the same way. There's people I can share things with. There's people that are going through something that maybe my story can help them, and it becomes really powerful. We have amazing volunteers. Our walk committees in all three of our communities are full of amazing people who are, a mix, right, of patients and family members of patients who really want to get the word out there so that people know a little bit more about what Crohn's and colitis is, know that it's a chronic disease, not a diet choice,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know that there are ways that we can help patients. So many people that have had the diseases for a long time that may just be comfortable in the treatment that they have, they might not know about the advancements that are out there if they're not involved with the foundation in some way. The foundation is a huge way to help our providers, especially think about Nebraska, Iowa, the amount of rural communities that we have. We
Mhm.
talked about the fact we have amazing providers in Lincoln and Omaha, right? Well, what if you're from Western Nebraska? What does your access to that amazing provider look like? how can we make sure that your general practitioner has information that they know when to send you to a specialist? And so getting that education out there is a huge part of what we try to do. And it's not just for the patients and the families, it's for providers. It's for lots of people. We like to do lunch and learns with companies where we talk to the company about what the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is, because sometimes there might be an employee there that never wanted to come forward because they didn't want to have to talk about it. But if their
Yeah.
company hosts a lunch and learn and becomes engaged with the foundation with a walk team or being a sponsor at Night of Champions or something like that, it might make that employee feel more confident and comfortable about sharing. So I think,
Wow.
Jordan, a big thing of what you said there of not knowing how to ask for that help. Sometimes it's education. It's putting education out there for all parties involved so that they're more comfortable with sharing and talking about what's going on.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is something as a young adult and entering into my career and things like that, I have always struggled with letting my employers know that I have a chronic illness and that there are times where I'm going to be really sick and I need that time off and things like that. I never knew how to approach that.
Or even just time off to go get your infusion.
Right. And so there have been times where I have been too embarrassed to say anything, and I have been at my infusion in the chair working on my laptop because I didn't want to inconvenience anybody. I didn't want to um receive any sort of special treatment or make them think that I wasn't going to be able to work. And so knowing that you guys are going out and educating companies on this, like that gives me so much hope for my future,
Yeah.
and that brings me a lot of comfort to know that.